Where's it going live on? Oh, let me or if you have a link, definitely send me it on what you call it, Messenger. I wish I had some juice, man. I need to go to the store today. Cool. All right. All right. Let me send out this. Or I'm gonna put on my story because everyone looks at my story. Oh, paste. There we go. Okay, and then we put one on Facebook. It's like everyone on Facebook usually. All right, we're good. This is recording, right? Oh, yeah. What you looking at?
All right, so hello everyone, and welcome to another special broadcast here. It's always a fun one. And I got with me David Dalton Jr., driver from Group A Racing, made his debut this year in Formula 4 USA. The first track, I believe, was Sebring, so
Yes.
that I bet was pretty fun.
Yeah, it was definitely a rise and fall of a weekend. Is I started off with a bit of an incident with a brake line and sent me into the wall. But I experienced my first crash then, but I was able to bounce back and I almost finished in the points. But a safety car bringing everyone back together brought me back to 12th. I was about to finish 10th. But yeah.
Yeah, it was a pretty good weekend. We'll get more into that for sure. So, of course, always going to start off with a question. When did you decide that this was what you wanted to do?
Well, for as long as I can remember, racing has been the passion. I didn't, it was maybe until 2011 when I finally started to explore the different types of racing series out there. Because way before that, I was just doing a lot of racing games. And from 2010, I was also, I stepped into simulation. And from there, I built on just how it felt to be on four wheels. And then soon after that, in 2013, I was able to, I guess, start getting my roots in kart racing because I started indoor kart racing in pole position in Jersey City. They're now called RPM Raceway, but it wasn't long until I started posting best lap times of the week. And then from there, I was like, okay, I have some here. So I just continuously built on top of that, doing lots of simulation. My parents would always tell me get off of it, but it it turned into be something special. So it wasn't until February 2018 where I finally started racing competitively in Mooresville, North Carolina, in the KA 100 senior class in karts. I did a few sprint track races there. And then I quickly moved to road course racing with a kart in the WKA Road Racing Series. And every track I've raced at, except Daytona, due to red flags, I've won. So that was telling me that I really need to get in a car soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it all started.
That's pretty crazy. So, yeah. And of course, going through basically this past year, well, kind of when did you know that it was the right decision to move into cars?
I kind of didn't know when it was the right decision. I just kind of, well, I had the opportunity to do one of the lapping sessions at Sebring at the club course with the Lucas Oil Formula Car Series. And it really just felt natural being in the car because it was my first paddle shifting gearbox, first basically race car. It was a bit of a learning curve, but I quickly adapted to it. And there was no doubt in my mind that I could do something with it. Mm-hmm. And I started doing the summer racing series in, I think it was May. Yeah, started at Mid-Ohio. Didn't do so good in qualifying, but during the race, wow, I found a lot of pace. Because that first race, I went from, no, actually, here's what happened. So I was struggling with the car. Mm-hmm. The cars in that series are quote unquote identical. So the car I had, the orange number 10, it was very oversteery, more than any other car, and the instructors could see it. It was a matter of time until I went into turn one and the back end just went. So I decided to switch cars. That second race, I drove from 5th place to 1st. That got called back. No, it didn't get called back. It did because the the track marshals saw something that they thought was dodgy from me, which really wasn't. It was just a bit of defending. So they mistakenly called me into the pits, and I finished 8th. So, since your best lap from race 2 determines your start position for race 3, I started 9th. I drove from 9th to 3rd. That also got called back because in this series there is no contact allowed. I had the smallest bit of contact possible, which only took off the left front sticker of the car. There wasn't even a scrape. There wasn't a dent. It just took off the sticker. So after that, I was like, okay, I belong here. It's time for me to capitalize on that.
Yeah.
And the next race in VIR, all three races I was fighting for the win. So I finished second in two of them, in race two, um, I kind of took myself out. I was in the same position as I was in race one, where I was like right behind one of the cars coming out of the last corner, and I just overdid it, got a little oversteer and spun out. But the two races that I did finish second, it was by 29 thousandths of a second and 31 thousandths of a second. So I could have literally hopped out the car and put my hand out, and I would have crossed the line first. But yeah,
that's insane. Basically, those stories right there is pretty crazy.
Yeah, it was real close racing too, and it was the closest racing I've had aside from Coda that we just had with F4. But I always look back on those races because it taught me so much. You know, I never leave a race weekend without information to take into the next race or next test session, because there's always something to build on. And right now I have a lot to build on because I'm just finished my debut and I'm going into the 2020 season, hopefully with some good results ahead, because I have a good team behind me. They see confidence in me. They like how I work with them. They're also easy to work with, great teams. That's Group A racing out of Long Island. And yeah, I'm looking forward to 2020.
Yeah, it should be pretty good. So they're out of Long Island. That's one thing that I kind of did not know. So yeah, that's not too far from where you're at. That's what, a ferry ride or a bridge ride over to go see them?
I do now live in North Carolina. My father lives in New Jersey, but I am from Montclair, New Jersey, which is about an hour and 25 minutes from their, I guess, garage where they have all the cars. But yeah, you could take the ferry. It would take about 3 hours. Just getting to it, getting on it, and then getting over. So.
Yeah. So, of course, going back also to that Lucas Oil series. So, of course, as I read up on it, it's a pretty cool, I guess not combination's a word, but just so the Lucas Oil series is also kind of part of Group A Racing. Like Group A Racing teamed up with the Lucas Oil series, and that's kind of how they were able to see you.
Yeah, they were. Jonathan, he teamed up with them as a race. What I just called it? Driver development coach. Yeah, there you go. And from there, I had a few talks with him. So did my dad, and he really saw my progression since I started. And it wasn't until I think it was New Jersey. No, it was actually Mid-Ohio when we had our first talk. But it wasn't until New Jersey when we actually started having talks about coming in for a test and racing. But the test never happened because my test was just the Sebring race. And I showed pace right out of the gate, but it was around 2 seconds off the front runners, which isn't abnormal because they have thousands of miles of testing.
Yeah.
But he saw my progression through Lucas Oil. I'm sure he did like what he saw. He saw a lot of potential. He liked that I was able to apply feedback quickly, like instantly. And I think he also was there at the Lucas Oil Formula Car Series shootout, or they call it car to car shootout, which I finished 5th out of 30. So that's another indication to me that I knew it was the right time for me to be in a car.
Yeah.
Because before that, I only did that test session in Sebring that November, and that shootout was in December. So, yeah.
Yeah, and also going back to Sebring, because it seems like you had, well, not only your debut for F4 was at Sebring, but so it seems like you had a lot of, well, just you kind of knew that track. You knew how that track would run. Is it as bumpy as people say?
Oh, most definitely. But the thing about Sebring was I never was able to drive the full track because
Hmm.
during the practice session we did the top half of the track, and during which is the club course,
Hmm.
and then during the shootout it was the bottom half of the course. So we did turn one, and then going into turn three, we did a little cut through, which went into turns 12, 13, 14, and 15. And then we just had the long back straight
Yeah.
into a modified version of turn 17 because they didn't want us doing the actual turn 17 because you were going to see a lot of oversteer moments. But the main, and like flying into the wall, but the main
Yeah.
thing they did, or the main reason they did the modified version of 17 was to see how we do threshold braking
Hmm.
and then trailing off the brakes to get the car rotated because since those cars they don't have downforce, it's all mechanical grip. uh, you rotate the car through your brake release, which is basically not machine that happens through when the inside wheels are just turning slower, which acts as an anchor
Yeah.
to rotate the car through the corner. So once I got the hang of the car, my hands were basically like that the whole time. It was never this. If you were doing that, you were doing something wrong.
Yeah.
But it was basically like that. And you were just trailing the brake into the corners, getting the car rotated and pointed and just going. So that made for really close racing. And I was able to get my first win in that series at the National Corvette Museum. So, and in the first practice session, me and my dad, we drove all night to get there. We got there at around 6 a.m. and I was dead tired. The first practice session, I went 4 tenths faster than everyone else. I was like, okay, maybe I should do that more often. Just drive tired. But but I was only able to do that because I retained so much knowledge and information of the car from previous races that I had that foundation to build on.
Hmm.
So it wasn't really about me learning the car anymore. It was just about me translating my knowledge of that car to the track.
Yeah.
Because the instructors, they were just telling me how there's not much more to that corner. I'm basically there. Like I'm just finding microseconds, which really isn't anything to bust your balls over because you're gonna end up going too far over the limit. So
Yeah.
they were telling me that there's not much more I can find. It's just staying consistent with it, and that's what I did. I made sure I was consistent, and I was able to get a first one out of it, which was really rewarding.
Yeah. For sure. So, of course, yeah, getting later into the racing season, and I know we kind of touched up on this, but what is, how was the, what is, how did the ride with Group A Racing, well, I guess not necessarily come about, but just, is how are you able to get, actually, let me just rephrase this in general.
Yeah, go
That's
ahead, go
not,
ahead.
so of course, yeah, you get with Group A Racing. How are you, like, what was the chemistry like once you got there with the team?
Okay. Um, well, the first encounter at Sebring, they were very welcoming.
Hmm.
You know, um, they told me everything I needed to hear, not what I wanted to hear, because you can never tell someone what they want to hear because that's when they just say, "Oh, everything's okay. I'll go the same speed I was going." But no, um, I mean, it didn't start off that good. Not from the team's and me relationship. It was
Hmm.
just because the brake line failed and I stuffed it. Like
Hmm.
first time in the car ever uh, on a race weekend. Like my main goal was just to go out there and not tiptoe around, but go around at a brisk pace, learning the car, finding the limits, not giving feedback initially just because I'm still learning the car because I'm nowhere near the limit. So when I got back to the tent, of course the vibe around the tent would be a bit different because I just
Hmm.
crashed the car and it wasn't really my fault. So they had to look into why it happened. and basically diagnose how to go forward from that situation. And like they told me, I basically put on a steel mindset and put that situation behind me because it didn't feel good going into what was that corner? Cunningham Corner. I think it was turn 10 or something like that.
Yeah.
Turn 7. And you have no brakes. And the way the way the pedal board is set up, when when the brake pedal has so much travel, you actually start pushing the throttle as well. So in a way, I accelerated into the wall. I think it was around 70 miles an hour, something like that. But I did feel a little bit of neck pain after that. That's just because you know, a little whiplash. I never crashed before. But going forward after that, they quickly found how easy I was to work with, how I was able to give feedback of what the car was doing, and just, you know, talk to the mechanics about how to find more speed. And of course, I was talking to Jonathan as well, looking at the onboard video of where I can pick up speed, looking at data, looking at what I can do different, and applying it. Like that's the main thing you'd want in a driver, is that they listen. You know, because you can't go faster and you can't do better if you don't want to listen to what a coach is telling you.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was just continued into Austin, which we had a really satisfying result with. So I was, you know, I'm feeling confident with the team. I'm feeling comfortable with the team. They have a great staff. There's really no reason why in the future that we can't pick up some points or even pick up a podium soon. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, and I guess we can also say on that, yeah, trying to get a podium, because you and I both know how many teams there are just in Formula 4 USA, not just in Formula 4 in general, but just in USA. And there's, of course, the likes of Jay Howard Driver Development, who have like 20 different drivers on their team, is how it feels sometimes.
Yeah, they had 5 cars in Coda.
Yeah.
And I was like, which one is this one now? When I was behind it. I got past, I think, 2 of them. But yeah, the competition is very stiff. It's very close, much closer than Lucas Oil, mainly because it's a spec racing series. The engines are sealed, gearbox is sealed, even the shocks are sealed. Only thing you could change are the toe angles, camber angles, and like they make sure that you even have the right operating fluids, like the operating levels, capacities, because teams were starting to, I guess, lower the capacity to decrease the turning resistance of the gears and stuff, which gave you like maybe 2-3 miles an hour on the straight, and then they were blowing up engines and gearboxes because of that. So they started cracking down on that.
Yeah, that's pretty insane right there. And of course, yeah, it's pretty funny because I was there at Circuit of the Americas and also got to talk to not only you but a couple of other drivers. And I know for Jay Howard Driver Development, yes, they do have 5 cars, but there's always this one car I've noticed for the past 2 years now that is something is not right about it. Something is not right about that car. As in, there. And please excuse my voice. I've kind of lost it because they've had me. My job is having me travel around, calling football games, basketball games now as seasons have gone on. So if I do squeak again, oh, you'll notice it. But yeah, there's one car where their oil pressure is always like really bad, something like that. They have overheating problems and brake failure issues, which is pretty intense. But other than that, their 4 cars always trying to make it to podium. I guess what are your goals for 2020 for just the season?
Well, so Jonathan, our race leader or team leader, yeah, he's told me over time, multiple times, that it's a 2-year process in F4, 1 year to learn and 1 year to win. Judging by my progress in Lucas Oil and these 2 races I have had, I really don't think it'll be a long time until I'm fighting like top 5 or at least top 8.
Mm-hmm.
But my goal for the whole next season is to not crash, because I've never really. I mean, there have been a few incidents where I had contact with a few cars. Nothing too major, but as we kept going. But yeah, my main goal is to learn the car, find the absolute limit of the car,
Mm-hmm.
because I want to build that strong foundation onto it. Because once I learn that car, like, because one, this is my first downforce car I've driven on full slicks.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more lateral load you could put into the car, and that comes with confidence and time in the car.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully this winter testing period, I'm able to learn a lot more about the car and go into 2020 with my feet on the ground sprinting, because I'm really feeling optimistic about it. But I'm just really looking to finish, I guess, top 15, top 20 in the points, because I know it's not going to be easy, because there's a lot of work I have to put in, not only physically but mentally, because I want to do this as a job. Like, this is my true passion right here. So definitely prepared for what kind of work has to be put in for 2020. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, of course, kind of staying with this series, I know that, and I've kind of touched up on it last week with Aiden, but you all have a certain amount of tires that you can use per weekend. So how does that run about? Because of course that final race, normally, sometimes yes, you could strategize to have tires saved, maybe a fresh set of tires or very not used tires, basically. But on that final race, normally, how does that car feel? Because, well, you're going to be running on used tires.
Mm-hmm. So since COTA is an anti-clockwise track, my team opted to, first, each team is allocated a set and a half. So we get one full set and 2 tires of our choice. We chose the right front and the right rear, because there's a lot of course, anti-clockwise, you have left-hand corners, which puts load on the right sides. And boy, did that help the car on left-hand corners. No, the right's not so much. I was feeling a lot of oversteer. Not oversteer, understeer. But I found a really good balance with the right sides being put on. I didn't think too much of it. It was just make sure I get the tires into that working window to find as much pace as I can, because I'm still finding how much load I can put into the car, because I'm not going to just go out there and I guess throw it around and just bin it. Like, I don't have the budget for that, to be paying for a car each time, because I want to come into each weekend with a calculated approach. Just be smart with the car, smart with the team, smart with the feedback. You have to be patient with it. It's not like I can go out there and win each race, even though how much every driver wants to do that. No, it takes time. So, yeah, the right sides of using the right side new tires. It wasn't too crazy. Like some drivers just used 2 new fronts, and I'm sure they had loose cars in the rear, but
yeah. And of course, it always goes back to driver preferences, really, I guess, is the main thing. And so, of course, staying with the Texas race, because, well, it was obviously a very crazy and fun weekend for you, I bet, because you have F1 there. Then you, of course, have this group called F4 United States, which always bring action constantly. And so
action and flying cars.
Yes, exactly.
One right next to me.
Yeah. So no one knew about how the track would feel this weekend, or that weekend. But of course, how were the bumps for you on that track?
Going into during the track walk, we definitely saw the bumps. We saw the undulations. after the bumps, they weren't. They were kind of long bumps. Like they went up and then kind of dropped off.
Hmm.
But there was one bump on the back straight that just launched the back of your car up to where you redlined for a split second. But
Hmm.
that definitely threw in some dynamics going into turn one.
Yeah.
Turn one, uh, coming out or on the back straight. Where were all the bumps? I forgot. Oh, here we go. Okay. So going to turn one up the hill
Yeah.
in the braking zone, no less. So you have a chance to lock up right there. So my best
Hmm.
bet was to brake, start braking, I guess, right on the bump, and then let up a little bit, and then go back on because I didn't get any lockups up there because one, it's uphill. You have the car pushing into the ground a bit more, but then it drops off quickly into a tabletop. So
Yeah.
going to turn one, go up, braking, and then goes down, and then back up, and then you're down again.
Hmm.
uh, there was a bump coming out of turn nine.
Yeah.
So after the S's, you have
Hmm.
the uphill right hander going into the sharp left. Right on the exit, it's like a drop, and then it
Hmm.
comes back. So that joggled my vision. I didn't really find any problems dealing with the bumps. It just added in another aspect of the track that you had to deal with, track characteristics.
Yeah.
Um, the biggest bump I thought I had to work around was that the triple apex right hander
Yeah.
towards the exit of the corner, because that one is really just I guess, a small hill. It's not even a
Hmm.
bump; it's just a hill.
Yeah.
Because if you hit it wrong, like you're gonna understeer out just because you lose all the front end grip, because
Hmm.
your car gets light right there. So your best bet was just to stay to the inside of the track, and that's also where I picked up time because I found myself floating out all the way to the rumble strips on the exit of that corner. But the bumps weren't too bad once you learned how to drive the track.
Yeah.
So
That's exciting. And then, of course, yes, you did have some incidences during the race. Of course, nothing too bad, but just talk about not only for just that race, but sticking with F4, how when you, of course, qualify and there's 30 plus cars on the grid, how you're able to really just, especially into turn one, navigate those cars. So I know how tough it is sometimes to just navigate cars on racing games when you're playing online.
well, I didn't even have a good qualifying because I was stuck behind this one Jay Howard driver. Man, so the setup I went with my car was, I guess, 2 ticks of downforce or 2 ticks of wing in the front and rear, while everyone else was basically running trimmed out cars to
Hmm.
where you had the least downforce possible. And no, the downforce doesn't really affect your straight line speed because there isn't that much downforce, but in the corners,
Yeah.
it does make a difference. So my situation in qualifying was I know who the driver was. I'm not going to say him, but they would pull away on the straights a little bit, but in the corners, I would just fly right back up to the back of them. And of course, you can't really pass in the corners unless, like how some people did. Like I saw this one driver do. They're one of the fast drivers. They went around the outside and turned one and went off the track and then back on because
Hmm.
they saw that there was no way past. So I definitely would have picked up another half second to maybe 3/4 of a second in that qualifying session because unfortunately that driver that I was stuck behind did qualify ahead of me because that's just how it works. You know, they pull away and then
Yeah.
you know it was a bit frustrating, but it's not anything I can really be mad over because these are the
Yeah.
weekends this is my debut. I'm still learning, so it's
Hmm.
not like I can be like they cost me a championship point or something like that, or just made my race a lot more difficult. I mean, my races were kind of difficult.
Yeah.
Second one was because I had to start at 19th. Yeah, started 19th. Car got air, pushed me
Yeah.
off, and I flew back to like 32nd. My team said I went back to 34th, but either way, I came back. So,
Yeah.
um,
So
yeah,
yeah, and of course there's things that from that experience now that you have that, there of course there's things that you have learned from it too. And so that can improve you for next season, probably heading into the first race, which would probably be something like Road Atlanta or Pit.
Road Atlanta, I really want to drive that track.
The roller coaster.
I just love the layout of it. It's a great track.
Yeah.
I don't know if Pittsburgh though.
Yeah, Pittsburgh Race Complex. I think that was like its second year on the calendar or something like that this year. And I know that, of course, early in the season, we all know this is going to be a tough thing. Is rain. So, are you ready for rain?
Of course.
Or driving inside the rain. Also, in the Lucas Oil Series, were there any rain races or no?
No, but I did do basically, or actually before the first race of that summer series at Mid-Ohio, I came in to do the test session. And yeah, my car was ruled to be a little bit faster than everyone else's, but that didn't stop me from being 2 seconds faster, because there was no, it was really just on the straights that it was like maybe 2-3 miles an hour faster. But in the corners, that car was very balanced. And that was actually the car I had in the car I switched to for the second and third race, which I drove from fifth to first and ninth to third with. So I already knew that car. Yeah, they slowed it down a little bit. Well, I don't think they did. No, they did. They did, because I knew how to handle it. So I was able to just, like I said before, I was able to just translate the limits of that car to the track.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't even have to learn the car anymore. So driving in the rain, that test session, the first day was wet. And boy, was Mid-Ohio slippery. You couldn't even get on the throttle until or full throttle until maybe the third gear, because we had the treaded tires, and they were just slipping around everywhere, understeer everywhere, getting sideways. It was fun though. It was scary but fun.
Yeah, people have talked about that track being slippery. I mean, it's weird because of course it is used, but I guess it's not used as much as other tracks, and so it's very difficult. And so of course the rubber, it rains, and then all of that slips off, and I guess that's just the nature of the track, which is why it's one of the most challenging, and a track that, well, I don't necessarily care for that much, but it is fun to watch.
Mid-Ohio?
Yeah, Mid-Ohio.
Mid-Ohio is a great track. Well, I mean,
I hate the last turn though, because always I find myself going into pit lane for some strange reason, so being able to take that right hand.
Pit lane.
Yeah, because it's that turn right there, and it's some braking zone and all that. Just understeer.
Well, that was the trickiest corner for everyone during that weekend. I was able to find a good balance through there. It's a long right hand. It's the carousel. So in the braking zone, track drops off, and then you experience a light car, and then it comes back. So you have a little bit of compression. Then you just carry that minimum speed through the corner, and well, if you manage to go into the pit lane, really understeered, because the corner keeps going, because there's curb all the way around. So and actually on that last corner, there is a little bump at the second apex that you're supposed to hit. So in the rain, that was crazy, because the wheels just kept spinning and spinning. But no, Mid-Ohio I feel is a really great track, especially for a spec racing series. You really have to earn your track position. It's a dynamic track, lots of undulations, sacrificing your entry for the exit. That would, I mean, it's the first track I have ever raced, so it's one I'll always look back on. So that was a fun track.
Sounds pretty fun for sure, but of course also challenging in its own way. So kind of switching gears for a second, moving on. You mentioned, of course, in your bio for a lot of things that you are you're a technician for BMW. So how is that?
Yes. So starting off in 2016, when I graduated high school, I went to a trade school called NASCAR Technical Institute. There I learned everything about the automobile. Not that since I was a kid, I've always been in the cars and racing. So I did my own little bit of studying, but at NASCAR Tech, I learned everything from tires to electrical. So I learned how to basically service a car, how to work on a basically no, I especially learned how to diagnose a car.
Hmm.
That was pretty cool to learn. I learned about electrical circuits, how they, the fundamentals of it, how they work in the car, different modules in the car, how they communicate with each other. Because diagnosing a car is very complex. It can be, but that was something I really am grateful to be able to have that skill. And after I finished what they call the core program, uh, I was able to do the NASCAR elective, so NASCAR Technical Institute. So there, I was able to learn how to set up a NASCAR race car.
Hmm.
I was able to learn about the aerodynamic aspect of the cars. I was able to learn fabrication as well. So I'm a very good welder now. Like welding is fun, but it's hot.
Yeah.
So I was able to do all that. Um, and I also did pit crew. Um, we basically, so everyone in that class, we were assigned parts or I guess roles on the pit crew. It was just basically us learning how it is to be on a pit crew.
Yeah.
So since yeah, I'm very fast with my hands, so I was able to be the gunman. And I think I posted one of the fastest times ever there in the school's history. I think it was maybe four, no, 3.74 seconds to get a tire, five lug nuts off,
Yep.
tire on, five
Yep.
lug nuts on in 3.74 seconds. That was the most fun I've had up to that point. Like that class it was hard work. It was ball busting,
Yep.
knee busting, and we basically had a general sergeant for the instructor. So that class was very fun. Out of the whole time I was there, that was like a gym class because, um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just I can't even explain how fun it was. I actually do have a video that I should post. No, I do actually have the video on my Instagram of that. Like it was one of the runs. So it was just us running to the car, zipping five off, five on. Yeah, man. And that was in July to all the way to August. No, it was no, just July, something
Yeah.
like that. It was hot, but yeah. Going to NASCAR Tech, I learned how to work on the cars, to work on race cars, and then after that, when I graduated in February 2018, no, January 2018. Sorry, I um, no, sorry. Let me back up. Graduated NASCAR Tech, January 2018. I got accepted to do or handpicked to do the BMW STEP program, which stands for Service Technicians Education Program. STEP program in New Jersey. So I went back to Jersey in June and I learned how to be a BMW technician. I learned about all of their modules, how the cars work, how they function, especially how they drive as well. So I received very in-depth training on how to work on their cars. I did that from June to October, and I was able to land a job as a BMW technician in North Carolina in November. And I've been there for a year and 14 days to today. So it's been a very good ride from 2016 in the education side for automotive, which is very cool to add to my legacy.
Yeah, exactly. It sounds really, really cool, and of course, that benefits you for just in case. Well, it can also. So, of course, with you doing that, you raced. Have you seen that you're able to kind of figure out, okay, this is wrong with the car and something else because of that class?
Most definitely, man. You hit it right on the spot because that's what Jonathan also likes about me is that I know how to give feedback of the car,
Hmm.
and I know how to somewhat. I'm learning to diagnose my own problems of the car, because in Lucas Oil,
Hmm.
I mean, this is one of the most basic problems that a car can have is vibration during braking. It's usually a warped rotors or something, warped rotors. So it wasn't hindering my performance around track because that was the first session, but definitely I felt it through the steering wheel, the vibration. If you only felt it through the, or if you only felt that vibration through the car, it would usually be the rear rotors. But since
Hmm.
they were the front, you would feel it in the car and the wheel.
Yeah.
Since the brake pads are clamping on the rotor and kind of sloshing the front wheels around. Um, but yeah, like if if I feel twitchiness during the car in the car during on straights, that could indicate maybe the front toe is too out or too negative, meaning the fronts of the tires are pointing outwards instead of inwards. If I feel sluggishness from the car in corners on turning, it could be because the toe is too forward in.
Hmm.
There's so many things I could uh, pick out about the car when it's not being right. So
Yeah.
that that definitely helps me learn how to work on a car. It definitely helps me be that much of a well-rounded driver
Yeah.
when you give feedback.
Yeah. Well-rounded drivers are always, well, they're always good to have for sure, especially when they can help out with the technical side of things. Reminds me of, well, the best story, especially from last year, is I don't know if you know this driver, Saber Cook, but so she gets handpicked for the Infinity program, and it's the same exact thing. All of a sudden gets uh, does F4 to try to get her name out there, and now she's with the W series. Either works with Infinity, does all that stuff, so technical side. So it's like just in case, well, not in case, but because your main goal is still always going to be the F1 side of things, but well, if you can't find money for sponsorships or anything like that, I think the next thing for you to do is, well, get behind an F1 team as an
Um,
engineer.
it's always a possibility. Of
Hmm.
course, I don't want that to happen. Like I want to take off with racing,
Yeah.
but I do have a good skill set behind me. I feel, especially also in music, um, and working on a race car is definitely much different than working on a road car.
Yeah.
Because race car is so much more precise. There's
Yeah.
much less tolerances for different kind of clearances as far as working on an engine, whatever I might do, like maybe the engine, uh, wheel alignment, um, just a million things you could tinker with on a race car to make it go a tenth faster.
Yeah.
And since I am heavily into aerodynamics, I've always thought about being an aerodynamicist
Yeah.
because I've always loved just when I'm in the car, just because you already know racing drivers, we start drafting random cars on the freeway trying to save fuel mileage.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm always intrigued by how air works around a moving object,
Hmm.
how you can make it faster or not faster, but use air as an active force, downforce,
Yep.
dynamics to put you into the ground
Yeah.
and give you that much more cornering speed, which is truly an amazing science in itself.
Hmm.
But definitely, if racing forbid doesn't happen, I do have something to fall back on.
Yeah. So now, of course, another thing too is that you are very much into music. So just, I guess, kind of talk about that because it's pretty interesting to see. Well, not only you like racing, but you're also a technician, and then you find a way to fit music into this as well.
Yeah. Um, so music is also something I've been heavily into because it started off with my dad exposing me to artists from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, even in the 60s. And it wasn't, I never really exposed myself to different types of music until my dad did. So from there, I quickly picked up what time signatures are, how different types of rhythms and melodies can go with each other, and just how beats can be the biggest influence of how a song could be either great or horrible.
Hmm.
Like there's always that fine line of how complex you can make a drum beat
Yeah.
to where it makes the song either overplayed or just right or underplayed and boring. So um, in when I was in elementary school, I found my passion for drumming, which I have been doing for 12 years. I found my passion for drumming doing being a part of a drum group called Drums of Thunder out of Montclair, New Jersey, at Hillside Elementary. With that group, it was 22 snare, five tenor drums, and eight bass drums. We were around 11 to 12 years old then, from fourth to fifth grade. We did halftime shows for NFL, NBA, and all kinds of college games uh, up and down the East Coast, all the way from, I guess, Boston to Baltimore. We didn't go that far out, but we did like that good area.
Yeah.
So we played for the Celtics, the Giants. Um, we played for Rutgers a lot, and little shows around Montclair. And there, I was really able to learn what it is to play a drum. And I happened to become one of the, or not one of the, but the best drummer on that drum corps. Because there was a drum cadence called roll off, where all 22 snare drummers they they go up and we have our own little solo. Now we all play the same solo, but
Hmm.
mine was the absolute fastest and just most accurate. Like the drum instructor, he was just so amazed by it, and I still think about it to today, going back to see him because I think he's retiring this year from doing Drums of Thunder because he's in his 60s now. Um, but yeah, I did that for 2 years, Drums of Thunder, and since 2012, I got my first drum set, and I posted tons of drum covers on my YouTube channel,
Hmm.
which got me a little bit of a following. And to this day, from I guess 2017, I'm in a band from Charlotte, North Carolina called Prep and Barium. We're a hard rock slash rock and roll band, and we're basically taking over the rock scene in Charlotte, and we're really going to play shows uh, in much bigger stages soon. But
Yeah.
we're in the process of finishing our first album, and it will be out I think at the end of this month or next month maybe. We have a lot of good content, and I just came up from Charlotte yesterday because we had a writing session.
Hmm.
Like we came up with new ideas. I'm our lead singer. He recorded the whole thing, and he's still waiting to upload it. I can't wait to see it because we did some cool stuff, man. But my main influences for drumming uh, is metal. I've always been into hard hitting, fast cadences. That those fast cadences and hard hitting came from being in Drums of Thunder. Because we're kids, we were just hitting the drum, not thinking much about it. But when it came to me, I mean, the cadences we did have, they have what we call accents. You know, they were very complex or complex to a point, and I was able to grow on that ever since I left that group or graduated from the school. So yeah, being in this band, um, it's I couldn't have imagined being at the state or position I am in now, just being in racing and music and in the technician side of automotive. Like it's I really shaped out to be following my dream, which is everything I could have wanted. So I'm very grateful of that.
Yeah, for sure. It's pretty exciting. And of course, I know y'all on your YouTube page released two songs, so why
Hmm.
don't you talk about those because they're pretty interesting songs to say the least.
Yeah. So we have our two songs out. Uh, Title track called "Prep and Barium," and we have Love Lies out. Now, when I first started with the band, the songs were basically a carcass. You had the main guitar parts because I I basically helped transform all these songs to sound the way they do now. Because the drum parts that were on it before, they were basically just basic rock beats. Um, I incorporated so many. There's nothing simple about what I play, and I did it in a way to where it isn't overplayed. It's tasteful and technical. So um, I don't know if you can play songs on this stream, but but those two songs that we have out right now, um, our opening song for our shows is Prep and Barium, and it seems to really get the vibe across about what our band is like. It's like, oh, these guys are real. They ain't playing around because we come out with a bang, and then we get into a hard driving song, which is called Death Proof, which isn't released yet, but it's more on the straightforward, like boom, 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 boom. While Prep and Bearing was like,
Yeah.
that was probably funny hand movement, but you get what I mean. Yeah, man. It's been a pleasure playing with these guys. They're very motivated. They're great musicians, and they're also into racing. My lead singer, he was a kart racer back in his day. Our rhythm guitarist, he's on a Xfinity team. But I think it's either Xfinity or ARCA. It's Venturini Motorsports. He's on the pit crew.
Venture. Yes, I know about that. Yeah,
He's on the pit crew, so he's always out doing his thing. And then our bassist, we just got a new bassist. He's not much into racing, but he's a very good musician, and I'm glad to have him a part of the group as well because he fits the part, he fits the image, and we all work together. Yeah. So there's no tension in between it. So
yeah, it's always good to not have any tension between you, especially in a band, because I mean, history shows that there's always going to be that tension after a while. But then, of course, either bands will work things out, or sadly, it won't.
Yeah, and we actually had to make amends because of that. We had a member that wasn't doing so good, so we brought in our new bassist, which he's just chugging right along. Like we're making new songs, and it's awesome. Like we about to release our first album. So the shows we have played, like we've had nothing but positive feedback. Just metalheads coming up to us, just rocking out with us. So yeah, we're looking to take over the rock scene.
Yeah, of course, North Carolina, sometimes it's not too hard to do, but it is something that is, of course, you can always get some new culture into North Carolina because it's always fun to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and since we do have our songs out right now, our title track, Prep and Barium, it has 1,700 views. So, and we've had the demographics from all around the U.S., even outside the U.S., like our music, give us feedback, and it's awesome.
It is pretty awesome. And then, of course, your second song, Love Lies, pretty different from your first one, of course. Just like you said, the first one, Prep and Bury, very extreme, and then the second one, a little bit less. But of course, it still stays with that hard rock scene, which is very nice. And those songs to me remind me of those old NASCAR games, like those arcade. I don't know. Like in 07, those arcade games for like the NASCAR, they would have these amazing tracks on them with these hard punk songs, and just it reminded me of that. It reminded me of my childhood. I'm like, this could have been in an arcade game.
Exactly. Like a big part of where I got my music influence were from racing games, because whoever made these soundtracks for racing games, like Need for Speed, Hot Pursuit 2, Underground 2, NASCAR 2005 Chase for the Cup.
Yep.
They have so many dynamic songs. You have everything from rock rap to metal to just hard rock in itself. And then you have your EDM music, which I just took it all in, and I made it into such a unique style of drumming that it just fit right in with this band that you hear with these with the songs like Love Lies. Of course, it's talking about love, but it's still that technical, somewhat slow but hard rock.
Yeah,
you can easily jam with it, and plus the melodies are great.
Yeah.
So I'm really feeling optimistic about the direction of this band, and I have no doubt in my mind that racing will take me away from it. But if it does, I most definitely want to make another record with these guys because we have a good team. You know, we after practices we're always hanging out, getting food with each other. You know, just seeing sights around Charlotte, and it's a dream, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, so speaking about it, you're, of course, yes, a hardcore racing fan. You did watch the race today, the Brazilian Grand Prix. You might watch the championship race tonight, which is for NASCAR. I don't know if you're that big of a fan of NASCAR, but it's pretty fun. But just, do you have a favorite driver for at least F1? Or a favorite team?
I've always found myself telling myself I don't have a favorite anything because I have appreciation for everything the way it is. Like I can't simplify or single out a favorite song, favorite car, favorite driver. Like, of course, I like Lewis Hamilton. I also really like Daniel Ricciardo.
Yep.
Max Verstappen, Lando Norris. You know, they all have their positives in their own respect.
Yeah.
Like, let's say Ricardo. He's very fast. When he was with Red Bull, he has raw speed. He has a lot of attack. But then off the track, he's like such a bright personality. Like you can't hate him.
Yeah.
Then you have our young guy, Lando Norris. He's coming up like you saw, or I'm sure we all did see his progression through this series.
Yep.
He's a very likable personality, and he's very quick on track with McLaren. He's a very good fit with McLaren, along with Carlos Sainz. And then Max Verstappen, yeah, it helps that he's had a racing background with his dad being a Formula One driver in the late 90s and early 2000s. He's been racing his whole life. He has that raw talent now. Well, it's not raw, but he had the exposure very early. So, you know, when you have the money to do something you want, it makes it that much easier to be able to hone your craft. So that means each time I get in the car, I'm taking in absolutely every wheel rotation that I get for just as far as feedback.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really don't have a favorite anything. Just because I like everything the way it is in their own respect. So I don't have a favorite food either, even though I eat grilled cheese too much. Which I'm about to make one after this interview. Because I see the bread right over there. I got the cheese ready too. It tastes good right about now, man.
Yeah. All right, well, I'll probably not hold you too long anymore, but yeah. So, yeah, of course. So where can we find you on maybe your socials or anything like that?
Okay, so I'm always on the Instagram, David Dalton Jr. David, last name Dalton Jr. You can't miss me. I got the red suit on with the profile picture button up my helmet like that. Something like I'm probably gonna change it soon. I don't know. But I like that picture. That's on Instagram. I just made a Twitter finally because I was recommended to make one because it seems like the motorsport world revolves around Twitter. So that is David_Dalton Jr. And also follow my band on Instagram, Prependarium, Preppenbarium, Preppenbarium. We also have our YouTube, Preppenbarium, and I also have my YouTube channel, which I posted my last race at Coda. That's Davy Drum 98. So I see drum in there because I also have my drum covers there all the way back from 2013 to 2015 or something like that. I haven't posted in a while. I'm sure I will soon because I have the practice space our band records in, or not records, practices in. But yeah, I'm out there on Facebook as well. I have my racing page, David Dalton Jr. Racing or something like that, and then you can even friend me on Facebook. So yeah, I have my good uh, circulation of social media to stay out there. So yeah, man, it was a pleasure talking to you.
Yep.
I it's a huge honor to be interviewed, especially by you. Like I know we're trying to get up there with what we're doing. Like I appreciate you doing this. So giving us both exposure because people are going to see me doing this interview and look to you. People are going to see you doing this interview and look to me. So we're helping each other out. So
Yeah.
we're coming up through this together. So that's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. I love to do this. It's been fun, and well, yeah. Hopefully, we can do it again soon, especially closer to either this next season in 2020 or recap the 2020 season.
Heck yeah, man. Or even before it, like giving my insight on what happened during the winter. But yeah, man, I know I'll see you down the line.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I will see you as one of the top TV. I might even see you on TV one day as a broadcaster, like on the grid, because you have the look, you have the. I know you came prepared with the questions, so
yeah,
that's something broadcasters or people hiring broadcasters look for. So yeah, man, it was definitely a pleasure. And this is Jacob Young, everyone. He's a great guy. Met him at Coda, as he said, very approachable, always smiling, as you see. So yeah, man.
All right, cool. Well, once again, thank you for letting me do this, and I'll see everyone soon. Adios.
Yeah, thank you all for tuning in. Peace.